Happy Monday, everybody. It's Amir from Next Gen Solutions. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at Autodesk Prodsmart and specifically how do we set it up. So, for those of you who don't know, Prodsmart is an MES software, job tracking software, production tracking software, kind of goes by a lot of different names. But again, a great tool in that manufacturing workspace to be able to track your jobs, track the time on your jobs, track quality, track inventory. So if you're one of those shops out there looking for a better way, a better system, instead of just writing stuff down on pieces of paper or on Excel and not taking advantage of a lot of those types of information that you're gathering and the data that you're gathering, then this is a solution for you. It's quick, it's easy to set up, and we can get this implemented in a short amount of time, and we can start getting a better insight into our manufacturing workflow. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's go ahead and jump in. Alright, so for all my fans of Fusion 360 out there, I'm sure this would look pretty familiar to you guys. So all I'm really doing is this is just a visual. I'm going to be showing you how we take this part that's where it's designed, it's done, it's drawn, we're ready to make a certain quantity of this on our production floor. And the reason why I can also want to bring this up is the fact that Prodsmart and Fusion 360 are integrated together, so you can bring part information directly from Fusion 360 into Prodsmart. So I'm going to go ahead and now take us back into the Prodsmart side of things. 1 second. Perfect. Now we're back. I am going to bring that product in here. So I'm going to go into products. As you can see right here, this is a list of all the other different types of products I have inside of my, I guess you could say, product list catalog. Now you might ask me, what actually is the definition of a product? To me, honestly, the product can be anything that we manufacture, we purchase, any sort of unit that we want to be able to track that's going through our shop. So, a finished assembly, it's a product. A component, it's a product. It's a raw material, you guessed it, it's a product. So really, anything that you want to track as far as units go, that's going to be a product here, all right? So, I'm going to go ahead and say click on this big plus button out here that says it's a product. We are going to go ahead and we are going to put that product number in here. So I'm going to just call this part number. And again, the naming conventions really don't matter too much. You can really go ahead and name it exactly whatever you want to name it. So it looks like we are at part number 2673. I can simply just take the code, set that up in my name as well. Again, you can make Prodsmart as customizable as you want it, and you can change these codes and names as you'd like. So taking a quick look to see what is actually, you know what, just in case I already have this in the system, I'm gonna just change that number really quick. Perfect. So some of the advanced fields here, what they're gonna ask you is some basic information regarding the product. So none of this is vital to actually setting up right at the beginning, but again, I'm just going to point you out to some of the characteristics of these products that I think is going to be helpful for you to kind of know. So you can type in things like observations if there's special notes about this product that you want your operators or whoever is really using Prodsmart to know. You can actually set up things like parameters. So for example, let's just say that you wanted somebody to be able to make sure that they check the box that that particular dimension was measured, or did you actually check the fitment before you took the part out of the machine. You can even add parameters like that tied to the product, so when somebody's trying to check out of the job and they want to complete the job, they have to make sure that these steps were done prior. So again, a really cool factor. That way you can make sure that all the workers are being diligent about the work that's being produced. Again, family here is for organizational reasons. There's also ways that you can, for example, set up a minimum allowance for scrap rates for this particular job. If you hit more than 20-30%, then we can set up alerts to say that, hey, something's going on here with this particular part. The scrap rate is just too high. Maximum inventory, minimum inventory. So if you're in the realm of either making things to stock or you are making things to order, you can then balance and adjust to set up alerts stating, hey, for example, my number of my bar stock numbers are reducing and they're being consumed, but this method here, I can set up a threshold to say, if I ever get below 3 12-foot bars for this aluminum bar stock, I need to know so I can reorder it. We can go ahead and put those thresholds in here and then set up alerts so that you can immediately, so instead of being reactive, you can get ahead of being in a situation where you don't have stock. So that's, again, part of all of the types of information that you can tag onto the product. Next thing here, as we keep going down the list, there's also ways you can, for example, put in unit cost, what it costs you to produce this part, the price, basically what you charge for the sell. And there's a whole bunch of, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different information that you can tag here. I'm probably going to bypass a lot of this just so that I can kind of keep this moving. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit save and continue editing. There we go. So part was in here. We put the part into our list of products here. I can actually just go ahead and actually look for that part here with a handy search bar. And I think I typed that wrong, so let me go ahead and just make sure I type that in one more time correctly. There we go. So as you can see, that's the part. We've added that to our system now. You can always go back in here and edit the part and change information regarding the part. A few other characteristics. I'm just going to quickly minimize the advanced fields here so we can see what some of the other things are. I can add operations, I can add process templates. We're going to get into this in just a few minutes, but I'll explain what that means. But you can also, for example, tag materials and subproducts. So, for example, if this was an actual piece of raw material that I put in here, that's perfect because now I can use this material as a consumption material into another finished good. So, again, let's take our part right here as an example. Right, I am going to need probably some bar stock to get this thing machined, right? So I can then place the bar stock as a product in here, plus the finished part as well. And that gives me the ability to now say, hey, my finished good or my finished part basically is or I should say the material is a consumable of this finished part, right? So I can start tagging that sort of information. How that would look like in your workflow. For example, let's just say you wanted to order, again, more 12-foot bars of bar stock. And you can set this product up here to be something that uses that raw material. So as you keep producing more and more of our finished goods here, the number will start dwindling down from our stock. And then if you remember what we just talked about as far as the thresholds, what's the minimum inventory, what's the maximum inventory, as soon as I get to that number where I only have like one more piece of bar stock left, again, this is how everything is connected and I can get that information direct to me saying, we've used up a lot of that stock, time to reorder more, right? So that's the nice thing about having subproducts in here. It's also possible to apply the same concept for example, a wood shop, right? So if you wanted to just bring in the whole assembly for a desk or a chair, whatever it is, then all of the subcomponents can also be categorized inside right here, right? So the next time you start to issue a new production order to produce X amount of chairs, then I also need to produce X amount of bases, X amount of legs, X amount, anything that all of the subcomponents are needed in order to produce the chair. There's also ways you can basically add things like files in here. So the files, you can put in PDF prints, things like that. So as an example right here, I can actually go ahead and say, hey, I need to drop a file in here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get our drawing straight in here. I'm going to save that product now. So hopefully we should see a PDF now attached right there. So I can go ahead and look at that preview here. And as you can see, now a worker can also pull up the drawing and make sure as they're producing the part that they're measuring tolerances and checking the boxes off, right? Spec sheets, unit of measurements. So this is a great place to make sure that you're tracking unit of measurement conversions. Again, the concept here is the fact that if you were ordered a 12-foot bar of stock and instead of measuring things in feet, you want to start measuring that in inches so you can see where it's being consumed across the shop. We can set up unit of measurement conversions as well. Add in your suppliers in here. So as you can see here, if I wanted to put a new supplier, I have a few actually set up in the system, but now I can put in all my suppliers, put in that specific supplier code in here. So now the next time you need to go back and order this and possibly even issue a purchase order through Prodsmart, you'll have the supplier product codes, the supplier's name, their addresses, all of that information. Again, a good way to consolidate a lot of these little pieces of information that might be existing in different Excel files or different folders in your file cabinet, right? So everything is more available to you. And the ease of access is really nice. Okay, so that's kind of some of the topics related to the actual product. Perfect. So now that the product's in here and we've tagged in all the relevant information, the next most important thing is our operations. So in our operations, the way Prodsmart does it is you can, especially in a manufacturing setting, is I like to start off with something called process templates. So with process templates, I can go ahead and create a certain standard set of steps that can be applied to a certain product or a certain part. So I made a few here so we can just kind of take a look. And one thing I always like to mention to a lot of people is the fact that Prodsmart can be as micro or as macro as you want it to be, right? So if your intention is not to measure every single step, let's just say you didn't want to track time for your lathe operation, you didn't want to then track time for the milling operation and the sanding up. If you didn't really care about the granular time and you just wanted an overarching, what did it how long did it take for it to go into the machine and then come back out, right? If that's all you really care about, then we can make it even as macro as that. As an example, I actually have there's one in here that I just think I called it basic, but here's process 101. Basically talks you through everything from the saw to machine setup to all of your CNC operations 1, 2, and then hand deburring, right? So again, pretty micro, pretty granular there. And then another example would be the turning operation here. Instead of breaking it up into multiple different lathe operation 1, lathe operation 2, I just have one overarching one that says lathe op, right? So again, this is just a quick way to be able to figure out exactly how to apply the steps to a certain product. So that's how process templates work, and it's very easy to basically set up. All I really would need to do is go in here, say, hey, I'd like to add a new process template. We can call it anything really. So for example, let's just say assembly, and let's call it, I'm just going to call it assembly again for ease. I'm going to save and continue editing. All right. So after I do that, now you'll notice I have a blank canvas. I can start adding operations to it. So I'm going to start off with an operation here. And I'm going to say, well, first step would basically be, let's just say gathering parts, right? Again, this could be very, very generic or very, very micro. So I'm just going to say, make that over. I can now, it doesn't have to be tied to a specific product, right? But I can go ahead and say, well, the task is going to take me, for example, this particular task is going to take me 10 minutes. The estimated time that I give the customer, again, really, you don't tell the customer how long it's going to take for you to gather parts, but you can just have that, whatever default value you want in there. So let's just say 30 minutes. You can multiply the quantities and the ratios here, but as you can see here now, I can go ahead and put in lead times for this specific operation, a maximum waste allowance for it. I can even set up checklists here, meaning in order for me to complete this operation, kind of like we just talked about, an operator needs to be able to complete all of these steps in order to complete the operation. So we can tag those sorts of checklists to it. You can even tag machines to it. right? So as you can see, I have a ton of machines. We're just about to go and talk about that, but you can even tag your machines to it, add work instructions to it, as you can see here. And that's great for even when you're trying to onboard somebody and you don't want them to kind of just sit there or run around asking for information. You can provide them a set of instructions that details exactly what they need to do, all available right there on a tablet, on a phone, whatever mobile device that you want them to use to be able to log into Prodsmart and gather that information, right? So all of that needs to be done. I'm going to hit save operation, and there we go, right? So again, I can continually just keep adding more operations to this. So for example, let's just say, I don't know if that's how you even spell glue, but I'm going to go with gluing there. Control copy, Control V. Please forgive me if that's not a word, if that's spelled terribly. I'm going to go ahead and just do the same thing. I'm going to hit save operation, right? So as you can see, what's happening is now I'm just going to be able to go ahead and create as many steps as I need, or as a few of them, and then save this as a template. So now the next time that I go in and create a product that needs this particular template, I can just tie them together, and when I go to produce my job production, my part knows exactly what steps to go through, all within a few clicks, right? Next thing is our machines. This one's pretty easy, pretty straightforward to understand, is the fact that you can't just have a product, you can't just have a couple of steps. You also need to tag a machine so you can figure out exactly what machines are working on the floor. You can get a sense of, who's working on what. Is the machine taken up right now? So again, super easy to add a machine. Simply just click on plus add machine right here, put in all of the relevant information you need. So I like that you can even just add like shifts to it too. So for example, like let's just say that particular machine wasn't available for some reason or the other. That machine wasn't available on Fridays, right? Then this kind of jumps into capacity planning a little bit, but again, gives you the ability to kind of take all the information into consideration when you set up the job, right? So after you set the machines, here's a nice little quick feature I like to show people, is the fact that, again, as you as an admin, you don't have to try to peek through the window or ask somebody what they're working on. All of the information is delivered to you directly. So you can see right now, the CNC saw is running, it's working on our job. The Haas DT2 is running, it's working on our job. There are other machines that are available, and they're just hanging out, waiting. We also have a water jet, which is down because the pump just blew off. But all of the information is now there for you to be able to see. Same thing with our workers. We basically can add in all of our different workers in here. Again, nothing too crazy there. We just need to click on add worker, give them a number, a name, and as you can see here, we can even attach cost per hours to them and even throw them into a certain section. So then, for example, let's just say that you wanted to go through a welding project, a welding production run. Instead of everybody on the shop floor having to see that particular job, you can just have these few people that you select to be in a welding section here. So then they can, be able to log in, check out the job that's waiting for them, and they can, jump in and start tracking time. So a very easy way to kind of organize people around too. And even the cost per hour, quick note on that is the fact that it's important, because then that way all of that is again factored in to your final job costs, right? So your machines cost per hour, your worker cost per hour, all of that is considered into the final job cost. Again, same thing with the workers. I guess I have a list here that I can tell exactly who's working on what right now, and who's available and who's even not here, right? So all of the information, again, easy for us to kind of take a look at from the back end without having to track that information down. So in summary here, right, so we have products, we have our operation setup, we have machines, and our workers. These four things, these four elements will basically help us now produce our production order. So I'm going to go into the production orders. So in production orders, as you can see here, this is a list of all my current running ones. I can easily just simply go into create a new production order. I can start a job, and let's call it 9. I'm just making up some numbers here. I'm going to say, hey, I want to start maybe on the 21st, on Monday, and I'm going to start it at 8 a.m. Sorry, didn't click on that. Perfect. It's due at, let's just say for example, the end of the month. It's due at 5 p.m. end of the month. I quoted 40 hours on the job. I can simply find that product now that we were working on. So it's 366275. There it is. What's also kind of cool is you can also import it directly from Fusion 360 as well. So this is an alternate method to do it. I'm not signed in right now, so I think that's kind of why I can't have access to it. But you can definitely also just bring that file directly over from Fusion into Prodsmart. So I can put in my current stock that I need for that particular order. So let's just say 15 of that. And now I can also, remember we talked about process templates. I can now attach that process template that I made. So for example, I can go into CNC operations here and I can say, let's jump into the saw process first, right? I'm gonna hit save, and that's pretty much it. I can then go ahead and assign it to all my workers. I want to mark it as active so that people can actually start tracking the time on it. There's further information here as well that we don't technically need to start off with, and then we can always come back and change any of that piece of information. But in a nutshell, you really just need a job PO number, a start date and due date, how much time is the expected time, the quantity that's ordered, the product. So that's some of the main information there, and we can go ahead and hit save production order. It will yell at me if I did something wrong, so it's kind of nice to see that nothing's wrong here. So just like that, our production order is now created, right? So now as somebody who is on the shop floor, if you need to go ahead and start tracking time on this job or start, tackling your job, it's fairly easy. All right, so here's our last and final step. Now that we have everything set up on the admin side, on the back end, how do we get our workers to be able to start tracking time on that particular job that we just made? So the screen that you're seeing here will be basically the app that you can download onto any mobile device, your tablet, your phone, or even use it on a computer. Absolutely fine. So the worker now can go ahead and start inserting production time into that job. So let's just say, for example, worker number 3 is going to go in, he's going to sign into it with their worker number. What's also kind of nice is the fact that now we all know in that machine shop environment, you can do simultaneous tasks at once. You can go set up a machine, have it start running, and then go set up another machine and have it start running. So this does give you the ability to be able to track time on both of those different tasks simultaneously. So I can close them at any time, but now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start a new production for this particular worker. I'm going to log into that job right there. We're going to then select the product that's in the job. Now remember, you can have multiple products too in one job. You don't have to only be able to run just the one product. So just kind of like your POs, if you had like 10 different brackets or whatever it is, you can put all of them inside of one production order, and workers can then jump in and start producing any of those products in that order. I'm going to go ahead and click on the product, and now all I really need to do is select the step that I need to start working on. So I'm going to say, hey, I want to select the saw operation, and there we go. In a matter of 3 or 4 clicks, your worker now can start immediately tracking time on that product. So as an admin, I can go to the back now, go back to my dashboard, and again, my active feed is going to tell me that so-and-so just started work on this particular product, on this particular job. These are all the machines that are running. These are all the workers who are doing it. Again, don't forget, as somebody who needs to know exactly what's happening on their floor, you do have access to a good status screen right here, so we can see exactly who's working on what. And that's it. So in a matter of 30 minutes, you just saw me go through, bring a product in, set it up, add our machines, our workers, our operations, and then we take all of that information, we produce a job, and then anybody on your manufacturing floor has the capability to go in and start tracking time on that job. And again, there's a lot more functionality in Prodsmart we didn't tackle, but that's for future videos. But let me know what you guys think. Happy to hear what you have to say about this. And again, if you want to learn more, or if you're kind of interested in trying to trial run it yourself, feel free to reach out and we can definitely help you out with that. So till the next time, this is Mayor. Thank you guys.